Hello, hello. Welcome to Airing It Out. I am Fuller, and you guys know what time it is. It is our Wednesday dose of Airing It Out, where we give out knowledge, where we give out wisdom. We give out the things that help you to be the vibrant and colorful person that you need to be here in 2025. You guys know that's been our theme. We're coming out. It's time. It's 2025. No more time to waste. We got to jump in here and do the things that we need to do to make sure that we're painting vibrant and, I'm going to say, you guys, ambitious pictures to make these kids, to make even the adults want to jump in and do and be the best that they can be. And you guys, it's up to you and me. That's why I have this amazing guest who has decided to share with us tonight. She is going to air it out with us as well. This is Miss Tiffany Loss. I want to make sure Outlaw, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it says Tiffany Nicole over there, but we're going to keep it moving on that. It is Tiffany Outlaw. And Tiffany, I met by... It was a coincidence, which lets me know that she is supposed to be here with us to air this out. Tiffany is an amazing mom, but she's also a two-time published author. Her big passion right now that she's driving on is creative future collective alumni. Forgive me, you guys. But I really went and looked into this, guys. It's amazing what she is a part of. Not only is that Tiffany's passion, but she holds certification as a business entrepreneur and creative adventures.
Competitive advantage.
Creative advantages, where she gives the legal requirements for small businesses and project management. This, I think, is also a big key role in things that are happening in our world today. Tiffany, as I sit down and I was, going through and doing my recon to find out who was Tiffany in all ways that I could before you got on here to air it out with us. And I found out that you're experts in different areas by helping business simplify their daily operations. And I want you to share with us, how does this increase efficiently and help them to build to be better businesses as you get with these corporate partners? Like, what is that world like and what brought you to that world? So you guys grab your pen and grab your paper, because I say pen and paper, and I know a lot of y'all want to know why. Because our brain in our hand has a cortex. It's your motor cortex. And when you write things down, it takes more effort than us pecking on the keypad, on the keypads. So today, I'm really asking each and every one of you, please grab a pen and grab your pad and take down these notes. Tiffany, please take it away.
So first, I'll start by just saying thank you for having me. We definitely met by chance, but I feel like it was supposed to happen. We kind of talked about a book that I was reading called The E-Myth, which was a game changer for me, and it struck up a conversation, whereas though we were able to really connect on a deeper way. So I feel like everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
I know you said Tiffany Nicole, Tiffany Outlaw. It's all the same. So Tiffany Nicole Outlaw is what I go by.
Yes, they don't want their last name, and I noticed when I was about to say it, I saw Tiffany Nicole. So
Yeah.
Okay, let me be okay that she's okay with me saying her whole name.
And that was a great question because, just kind of sharing a little background first, Tiffany Nicole started off because I was into music, right? So Tiffany Nicole is my middle name. And I got my start into business through music. So I started pursuing music as a singer-songwriter. And as I was learning about how to, dwell within the entertainment world, it really led me to see this other side of myself that was good at business. And so through me trying to, develop a singing career and a songwriting career, I started taking on internships with companies that were in entertainment. And that really struck up this side of hey, you're really good at communications, you're really good at marketing, you're really good at the business side of things. And it's not to say that two things can't be true at the same time. Yes, I did enjoy making music. However, there was this other side of me that I felt like I needed to nurture as well. And I feel like a lot of times growing up as a young Black girl, you don't really see a lot of examples of all the different career paths that you can have. And so, sometimes you feel like you just want to be a celebrity, be a basketball player, like be in the front of things. And there's a lot of kids I feel like kind of that get lost in the shuffle of really being able to identify other areas behind the scenes where you can really thrive and you can really excel. And so that's kind of how the Tiffany Nicole, Tiffany Outlaw thing kind of came into life. As I grew more professionally, I was like, there's no need for me to kind of shy away from the last name Outlaw, which funny long backstory about my grandfather and how he got the last name Outlaw. But I was like, there's no need to shy away from that. And I think that the thing is, entertainment and business is really, for me, I think part of my name, right? Because Tiffany Nicole was supposed to be my artist name, Tiffany Outlaw was supposed to be my business name. And then I was like, you don't have to separate yourself. And I think like exploring business and arts in that way taught me like you don't have to be two different people. They can dwell together, and through dwelling that together I learned that like, hey, within business and corporations there's a lot missing creatively as well. Like I think on the art side of it there's a lot of business things missing, and on the business side of it there's a lot of art things missing. And that was something that I really grew a knack for. So just kind of sharing additional context, that's how I got started. And then for the last 10 years I've been working directly with businesses, specifically small businesses, to help them increase their operations and efficiencies through systems and processes. I feel like, especially within Black and Brown communities, a lot of times we want to go in business and we're taught to go in business. However, we're not necessarily given the tools on how to succeed in business. And there are things that you can have a great idea, you can have a great concept, but unless you really have those fundamental things in terms of like how to run the business, how to create a system that you can duplicate, and how to create a process that your team can be able to implement. Like if you don't have those things, it's going to limit what you can do, and it's going to limit how you can be able to scale your business. And so I've been kind of on that journey of things. And then it's just led me into a world that is so funny because I feel like you can have a vision for your life. And as you're manifesting that vision and it's coming to fruition, it won't look exactly like how you thought it would, but it'll be that.
That is true. That is so true. I can attest to that.
Yes, it'll be that vision. And so that's kind of how my journey has been, taking place. I did create a Future Collective. It was a program, a cohort specifically for creatives that come from, you know, I guess like disadvantaged communities and backgrounds. It was a program for creatives to be able to have access to, resources and communities where they otherwise wouldn't be able to have that access. And going through that process really taught me the importance of community. It really taught me, it kind of deepened and strengthened my skills of being able to understand like how to succeed in a way that's creative based off of my unique experiences. Because I think that a lot of times when you do come from those disadvantaged backgrounds, you feel as though, you have to hide that part of yourself. And for me, going through that program was really eye-opening because it taught me that like I don't have to hide my journey. I don't have to hide the things that I've overcame to get to the point that I am. Those things are what gave me my strong suits. Like those things are what made me stand out. Those things are what taught me how to think creatively. Those things are what taught me how to problem solve. And everybody has their own unique journey that they're going through. And I feel like when you are, you know, patient enough to embrace that part of yourself, it opens a lot of doors and opportunities versus trying to hide and mask and fit in and do all these other things. I feel like that derails you. It causes so many other things to transpire. But it was a great program, and it was definitely something that I think it was like it kind of deepened my toolbox of things that I could pull from. So that's kind of just a little bit about me, my journey, how I've gotten here, the things and people that have influenced that. I definitely feel like growing up, I come from Philadelphia. I had a very rough upbringing, a very rough childhood, and I did not see people that looked like me in the spaces that I wanted to be in. And it made it hard for me to identify the spaces that I wanted to be in because I didn't have those examples. And it took a lot of unlearning for me. Like as I, became a woman and grew into adulthood, it took a lot of unlearning. It took a lot of getting outside my environment to really be able to see like there's other opportunities of, what you can explore, what you can do. Like, and then, it just led into a whole path of opportunity for myself, that I feel like if I had not left from, where I came from and where I grew up, I don't think that I've otherwise would have been able to see those opportunities.
So, is it safe to say that you totally agree with the neurological levels where environment is the bottom? You have to change that environment in order. That's like the start in order to evolve into the person that you want to be. So, environment, you do agree, was a big part for you in your change.
I say 10,000% because when you're in an environment, to be honest, that's all you really know, right?
Mhm.
And there's things that may not necessarily be healthy in that environment. There's things that may not necessarily be positive, and there's things that may be good. But until you leave that environment, you won't be able to see things in a different perspective. And just, kind of speaking of, like, I moved to Atlanta 8 years ago. And when I moved here, I didn't have family at the time that lived here. So it was like, I'm young in my 20s. I moved away from home. I was like,
Yeah.
dude. But there was a lot of things that I started to see and experience that was different from where I grew up, different from how I grew up, different from the things that I was taught. And it really started to challenge the way that I seen the world. And when it started to challenge the way that I seen the world, it started to challenge me to ask myself those questions of, well, how do you want to show up in the world? What does, the life that you want for yourself look like? And I feel like, if I had not come out of my environment, I wouldn't have thought that. Like I would have just kind of thought that the things that I've seen growing up, the people that I've been around forever. And it's not to say that it's, bad or good, but I just would have normalized that and kind of stayed within that same bubble, that same pace of things. And I look back now from the time that I moved here to the time that, before I left, and I'm a totally different person. Like I'm a
Mhm.
totally different person. My outlook on the world has changed. So I definitely
Value.
do feel like my values have changed, my morals have changed, and it's just a new dynamic. Even the company that I keep has changed, and I feel like unless you come out of your environment, it's going to be, and I'm not saying impossible because I don't think anything is possible impossible, but I think it will be very, very challenging to really challenge the way that you see things and figure out how to get out of the situations that you're in.
I totally agree that a lot of times a lot of us go into a change, but not realizing how much is involved in strategic change. Because, see, you can superficially change. And that's 9 times out of 10 when those behaviors or that environment or those people will tend to come back around and have that residual like space there. But when you strategically change it, like you did, starting with your environment, and you saw that your whole behavior changed, your beliefs, your values. So thank you for sharing that with us. May I also ask you, when it comes to faith, like was because I've been, here at Airing It Out, most of our guests are faith-based
Mhm.
people in persons, and uh a lot of people get faith and religion mixed up. Okay, so by no means everybody
Yeah.
we going into that war of religion that so many people want to do. We want to know from our guest, what is faith to you? Because
Yeah.
if we don't have it, especially in the world that we're in today, would you agree that it is a key ingredient for you?
I say it's a key ingredient for sure. And I'll I want to backtrack just a second and say I'm really glad that you said strategic change because I do feel like that's important. Like you do have to be strategic about everything that you do in your life because if you just go out and just do stuff all willy nilly, you'll find yourself somewhere that you didn't intend to be. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out. And then I'll also add in regard to the faith, I'm glad that you said like faith versus religion because there is a difference to me. right? I grew up very religious. I was raised very, my mom was a pastor, my grandma was a pastor, my dad was, I was like, I grew up in church. I was in church,
Right.
Bible study, Sunday school, like all the things, right?
Mhm.
However, I definitely do look at religion and spirituality as two different things, because you can, be a religious person and not necessarily be spiritual. You could be spiritual, not necessarily be religious. And so for me, part of that change in my environment really challenged what my faith was and what it was that I had faith in, right? And I do think that it's important to explore that within yourself, because to be honest, you can't really succeed in anything if you don't have the faith that you can do that. You don't have the faith that you're being divinely guided to get to where you're supposed to be. Like I feel like, and faith does it gotta be a little bit, just a little, it just gotta be a little bit, but you have to have that, because faith also plays a part into your subconscious, right? So if you don't have the faith that, whatever it is that you set out to do, that you can do that, then I feel like subconsciously you're already setting yourself up to fail. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with failure, because I think that failure is a great teacher.
Mhm.
However, you're going to need that on the days that things aren't pretty. You're going to need that on the days that, it gets hard, because I think a lot of times people talk about, life as, they try to paint this picture as it should be all good all the time or all bad all the time. And to
Mhm.
be honest, neither is true. Like, I think for me, when I learned that you really have to be okay with, sometimes you're going to have good days and sometimes you're going to have bad days. And knowing how to not be so emotionally attached to either allows yourself to have a deeper understanding, and that faith keeps you driving, because on the other side of it, I might be having a bad day today, but I ain't going to have one tomorrow.
Yes. And it's that self-talk that we have with ourselves. That self-dialogue is so important, because if you're telling self that I can, or I'm not capable of doing that, I'll be transparent. Um, I had a fear around sales, you know, and I had been telling myself constantly that I'm just not a salesperson. And one of my mentors, Brigitte Hopefully, I will give her that. She was like, get out of here. If you got a kid, you are definitely a
Yeah.
salesperson. Because really think about it. As parents, we sell
Yeah.
them on eating vegetables. We sell them on doing the right things when the influence of the world comes to tell them to do the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
So, that self-dialogue is so important. And if we look at it in life, when God was creating the world, he spoke it in words. He spoke it into existence. So it's so important for us to realize how powerful our words are. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, because
Going
most
back
of
to
us,
what you just said, going back to piggyback on that, that how important our words are.
I agree. Like, I think, most of us, I know for me, self talk is all day. Like, all day I'm self talking, right? So I think what you're telling yourself, you have to be very mindful, because that's what you're manifesting, that's what you're bringing about, and what you deeply believe, that's going to be rooted in everything that you do. So I think that, like, for me, my meditation journey is what really taught me how to be more mindful of the self-talk and the self-chatter. And sometimes you even got to tell yourself to be quiet. Like, you got to tell yourself, like, let me quiet down so that I can think clearly, hear clearly, be clear. So I think self-talk is in all that we do, because kind of like what you were saying in regards of, like, oh, I'm telling myself I'm not a salesperson. It's like, well, if you're telling yourself that, that's what you're gonna believe, and that's how you're gonna show up. So it's like you have to speak life into yourself, and then you also have to show yourself grace and compassion. I think that's a big part of it as well. Like, there has to be a balance of holding yourself accountable while also, being mindful of the fact that you are a human going through human experiences.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um,
So when it comes to our children, because I know that was another thing that we both connected on, is our passion for the youth of today and the youth of tomorrow. um I know that you also said that you were involved in STEM, which a lot of our guests may not be at privy to knowing exactly what STEM is. So if you would be so kind to, give us an insight on STEM, but
mhm.
also give us that insight to what are your viewpoints on our youth of today and
Right.
the ones, for the future? Because we get caught up in the ones that are not doing or not performing. And sometimes I see and hear it and feel it sometimes
Yeah.
that the ones that are out here striving hard, in band, in sports, or in these other electives that will build them to be the things that we know that they can be,
Right.
they fall behind. They get left sometimes because everybody is like looking at, say, Bobby over here, who is running amok, and
Mhm.
not doing the things that he should do. But where you got James over here, who is getting up every day, striving hard to be the person that he's trying, he has the ambition to be. Like, what do you see in that?
Well, there's a couple things. First, I'll start by saying for the kids that I feel a lot of times are maybe going down the wrong path, I feel like those are kids that are oftentimes overlooked and they're not necessarily being nurtured the way that they need to be. And then I'll rewind a bit and say that yes, we connected on, a passion for kids. And for me, that started when I had my daughter, right? I
Mhm,
had my daughter at 15, which is
mhm,
extremely young,
mhm,
right? And so I didn't know how to be a parent, right? I didn't know how to be a parent at 15, but all that I knew is that I wanted to be a good one, right? So
mhm,
that led me down this path of looking at myself, looking at, going back to that environment thing. And it really challenged me to be better. And in order for me to be better, I had also had to understand my journey as a child, right?
mhm,
Because there was things that I went through as a child that kind of shaped my point of view, my perspectives, and my narratives. And so when I became a parent, it pushed me on this journey of, okay, like I want to do better and I want to be better, but where does that start? And that starts within. And that led me on this journey to really understanding and seeing that, a lot of torn adults in the world were really children that went through things and they never got the nurturing, they never got the time, they never got the things that were needed. And so, to your point of STEM, I was introduced to STEM through my kid. My daughter, she was going to school, they were teaching about, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering. They got the A for arts and mathematics. And she was coding video games, right? So I'm like, oh my kid coding video right? And I was just like mind blown because like she was just really into it. She was doing so great. And it really taught me like, okay, I want to be more. One, I've always had a love for technology. That's just always something that has been underlining.
mhm,
However, I don't feel like I had enough exposure to it. Like, I came from the schools that I was in, we didn't really have a lot of access to technology. They wasn't really teaching it as much. And so I knew I always had this love for it. However, I just didn't have the exposure. And so when my daughter, got in school and she started learning about STEM and she started coding, it made me want to, as a parent, I'm like, okay, how can I nurture this? Like, I see that she's good at it. I see that she enjoys it. I see that this is something that she could actually build a career in it if she wants to do that. How can I, further educate myself as a parent to be able to help guide her on that path? And that led me to, I worked for a company as a project manager for Brown Toy Box. And that company was specifically to educate Black and brown kids about STEM, right? And the thing was is that it further educated me, but also it showed me that like these kids are phenomenal, right?
mhm.
They they outsmart us, they faster, they think quicker. It's just they need the exposure. And a lot of times kids in Black and brown communities are overlooked and they're not given the same access, they're not given the same resources. And so as parents, I feel like it's our jobs to one, educate ourselves on how to be able to advocate for those things. Like how can we get them to be into coding and marine biology and entomology? Like kids play with bugs when they kids and their parents tell them to stop. Why? They could be entomologists. Like,
Yes, yes, yes. Like
I
you
think
can't just smothering it before it even, gets a chance to blossom. Yes.
I agree. I agree. And I think sometimes we're too quick to, like you said, smother it and don't allow them to be able to explore those avenues. And to be honest, the way that society is going, STEM is very important, right? Like all the jobs that are going to be within the next 20 to 30 years are going to be centered around STEM. And
Yes.
so I think that we do have to bridge that gap because, like you said, you know, kids, their interests vary, right? And I think that sometimes we're too oh, you could be a teacher, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a basketball player, a football player. Like, yes, those are careers. However, there's other career fields out there that we just have to allow the children the opportunity to be able to have access to and to be able to cultivate their minds. Like, allow them to be curious, allow them to ask questions, allow them to see different things, allow them to challenge your perspective. Like my daughter, I was
Mhm.
talking to my daughter the other day, and she said, "Well, it's so funny because whenever I want to do something, I always feel like I have to prove my points." And I said, "But it makes," I said, "and when I give in to you, it allows you to see that the points that you made were valid, right? You are challenging the conversation, not in a rude or disrespectful way, but you're thinking critically. You're presenting ideas and different viewpoints, and you're challenging what's
Mhm.
being presented before you." And I think a lot of times we just think of kids as kids, which they are kids, but however, they're going to grow into adults.
Yeah, I
And I
call them
think
little
that,
people, the little people.
yeah, and that's the best way, the little people, because they're going to grow into young adults. And it's like we have to be able to guide them on that path and set them up for the success of how can I be a functioning adult? How can I challenge, the status quo? Like, how can I make my footing in the world and make my mark in the world in a way that may not look the same as somebody else? And that's okay. So that's kind of where my passion stemmed from. I've just, always felt like I wanted to be the example that I didn't have, like just being transparent. That was really it. That was really, I was like, man, when I get older, I'm gonna be there for kids the way, the way nobody was there for me.
Right, 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 yeah. Like this won't happen on my watch because
And,
that's how
and
I felt. Like not on my watch.
not on my watch. And I think, me being a parent, but then also being a resource to other kids within my community, I think that's what it really takes. It takes a community of us to be there for kids because, some of them have things that they need at home, but sometimes they may not be getting nurtured the way that they need to be at home. And I feel like, as a collective, we have to start leaning more into that. Like, how can I be, a resource to not just what's going on in my house, but to also my community around me, because ultimately my community around me is shaping the society, right? Like we're shaping the society, and we have to be able to help and guide one another. And what that may look like may be different for everybody. However, I feel like we all have a part that we can play.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I will definitely concur with you about that. On that, all of us have an answer to something in this world. It's just tapping into what's that something where purpose comes in at, mission comes in at. And a lot of that starts with knowing you know, to be able to identify as you identify that, what, I don't see that model of what I strive to be, and what my intentions are to be.
Yeah.
So coming back from, off of that, I hear the things that you said, but can you give me one like, I guess from your perspective, that children are facing or is a challenge for them in today's society that may not have been a challenge for you or me when we were coming through school, particularly?
So you're asking for a new challenge that we might not have
Something that
necessarily.
you notice, being that you're involved in the community, you're involved with, STEM, you've learned that, and the collective. So I'm quite sure you've came into more, you know,
Yeah.
maybe more, teenagers, young adults than I have. And
Yeah.
you may see something or heard something or even may feel something that you see that is a challenge now. That it
Mm.
wasn't a challenge for us, but you know, the adults are not seeing it.
Yeah. I'll say now. I feel like I'm a old head when I say this. But I'm like, well, they got a lot of similar things that we went through. They're facing similar. I feel like that's still very true.
Okay.
I would say newer issues would be technology is a good thing.
Mhm.
However, it poses a new set of challenges that I know I didn't necessarily grow up with, right? Like I didn't grow up with, and I was kind of on that cusp of, having technology, but not necessarily having technology the way that they have. Like I wasn't on social media. I might have had a MySpace, but it was nothing like a TikTok, nothing like an Instagram, nothing like a Facebook, nothing like AI specifically.
Right, right, right.
Something, that I can speak on specifically that I heard was there was a news story of a little boy that was talking to AI that had a, I guess he thought he had a relationship with the AI that he was interacting with. And unfortunately, he unalived himself. And I feel like, not necessarily having the parameters on how to deal with all the advancements of technology is a new set of challenges,
Mhm.
especially for minds that are more of the age that they can be easily influenced, right? Because when you think about a high schooler, maybe even a middle schooler, they're kind of like, okay, they can be able to assess things a little bit differently. But when you start thinking about the younger kids that may be introduced to AI or introduced to different, social media platforms, they're not necessarily they don't necessarily have those critical thinking skills yet, just to be able to identify what may be real, what may not be real, what's true, how to source information, how to filter through. Like, I think, I'm very thankful that I grew up in a time where we had to cite the source, where we had to cite the sources
Yes.
and really be able to go and understand how to get a credible source, for information. Whereas though now everything is so accessible, that and it's coming so fast, like it's happening so fast, that
Yes.
I do, that is a concern for me. Like, I think that it's good that kids are more exposed to technology. However, I do feel like parents and educators, especially educators, have to be more mindful of how to equip kids with the skills to keep up with the way that technology is advancing. Because
Mhm.
it's advancing at a pace where, and sometimes I feel like within the schools, sometimes it could be a little slower to adapt to technology. Sometimes, it could be a little slower to integrate within to the classrooms. But I definitely feel like it's something that, whether they're at home or whether they're at school, whether they're with their friends, they're going to be exposed to it regardless. And I feel
Yes.
like if we can, keep up with the pace of it, we give them a better advantage on how to be able to like utilize it in a way that's going to be responsible, in a way that they can be able to actually, be helpful and not harmful. So that's something that, like, I hear and see, that I'm like, okay, it is something that it's a unique set of challenges for kids today. Because, like I said, AI for me came out as I was already grown. I wasn't a kid when,
Mhm.
AI came out. So I couldn't necessarily say that that was something that I had to figure out how to navigate through.
Mhm.
And then just even thinking about the social media aspect of it, like, kids post something online and that's there for the rest of their life, right? Like,
Yes.
and teaching them how to be responsible on social media, like how to interact, how to show up, what to post, what not to post, because it's not coming down. Like, once you put it out there, it's not coming down. And then you also have the other aspect of it of, like, kids are going to be kids. So if something's floating around that you don't want to see, and all the kids at the school see it, I mean, all the kids at the school see it, that has an impact on their mental health. So just thinking about those things are, for me, something that's always top of mind. That's something that I'm always trying to make sure that I'm having conversations about. Like, I'm always just trying to make sure that, kids know how to use technology in a way that is responsible.
And I had that, but thank you for the deep dive that you gave and exposed some things that some parents may not have been aware of, or maybe not looked at it in from that perspective.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing your map with us. And I hope you guys are making notes and taking notes as Tiffany is doing a deep dive on so many things that will not only help our children, but help us, because it starts with us. It's bigger than us. And
Absolutely.
and to see, like you said, how fast this pace it's growing. Because there are times I'm like, I just learned this. So, and then they'll be like, oh, this is an upgrade of that, you know. So if they're upgrading, how is it that we not see that we have to upgrade, we have to change, we have to transform ourselves so that we can continue to keep up with this pace? Because we are the models that Tiffany and myself are talking about and speaking of here tonight. um we are those models, the models that you said was missing, and the models that I know were missing from me.
Mhm.
So I'm praying that you guys are really taking these notes. And Tiffany, I want to go further into your business, as far as you going into small business, and like asked you to give us a window into that.
Mhm.
What do you bring? Like, what does that look like for you to go in and help small businesses transform their environment to be better for our young people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I found so throughout my journey of music and, entertainment, I found this knack for myself, and I'm like, I'm really good at just going in and filtering through all the gook of everything, right? And I feel like every founder starts with, you know, ideas and a set vision that they have for themselves. But how to execute it, sometimes you need an outside perspective, because when we're in our own space or in our own perspective, we may not see things from a different narrative, right? And so for me, I found that I'm really good with structuring systems. I'm really good with structuring processes. I'm really good with, leadership skills and teaching how to manage other staff. So for me, my journey started within music. That was kind of where I got my start. And then I was able to work with small business founders across multiple industries. So I worked in events management. I've worked in the restaurant and beverage industry. I worked in STEM industry. I'm working in interior design industry. So it's really taught me that, and every founder says, well, and this is not being me, but I'm just gonna keep it real. They all like, my industry is different. Like, this industry is so different. We have a unique set of challenges. Yes, but at the same time, at the core, the challenges are the same. Maybe the industry specifics are different. Maybe, certain things in regards to the events industry versus the STEM industry could be different on a level of where your focuses are, or in terms of how the process is done. But at the core of it, you still need a process. At the core of it, you still need a system. At the core of it, it still has to be structured in a way that where you're bringing in people, they can be able to duplicate what it is that you're doing. Because I think every founder kind of falls into this knack of, you start a business and a lot of times you start it off just by yourself. So you are doing things a certain way. However, when you're building a team and you're expanding on that, if it's not documented, if it's not any roadmap created for other people to be able to come in and understand clearly and concisely, what ends up happening is people get overwhelmed, people get overworked, people get overlooked, and then you can't be able to sustainably keep a staff, and you can't be able to sustainably keep up with the growth of how your business is growing. And so I'm really able to go in and assess all the things, one, and then get it. So I always start with the let me learn first. I never go in and think that I'm gonna tell you what you're doing wrong. Like, no, that's not a perspective, because at the end of the day, it is, every industry is on some level different. So I want to see, what is it that you're currently doing and how is that having an impact? And then where is the pain point, right? Where is the pain point? What is the thing that is causing you the frustration, causing the lack of organization? Like, what is that? And like I said, for the most part, it always, ends up being the systems, the operations of things, the procedures of things. And then I'm learning too, speaking about, AI and AI integration, it's a helpful resource, but a lot of businesses are slower to integrate it. And I'm like, there's no need to be afraid. I think there's a level of education on how to protect your business, how to protect, your trader insides, or your inside secrets, or whatever the thing may be that you don't want necessarily to get out. But at the end of the day, it is a skill. I mean, it is a tool that you can be able to utilize to be able to increase your productivity, and to be able to open up avenues where you can be able to go and focus on other things. And so that could be anything from AI helping you, because to be honest, if you don't know how to create, I feel like people are like, oh, I don't know how to do that, I don't know how to do that. There's some kind of AI tool that you can integrate. They even have it integrated into your emailing processes. They have it integrated into, if you're using a program like Canva, you can use AI integration there to help you develop different, media assets or marketing assets that you're looking to do. So I feel like there's always a way. You just have to challenge yourself to get out of the comfort of, this is the way that I've always done it, because the way that you've always done it may not necessarily be the way that it needs to be done.
I am attest to that. I mean, I have been, I've like fiddled and fondled with airing it out. And like you said, I'd like to just go back a little bit to address when you were saying, writing it out, that somebody can go back. We'll go to the good book. The good book tells you that, to write the vision and make it plain. And that was something that I was preaching it. I'll be transparent, but I wasn't utilizing the skill myself, the tool myself. But once I started to write down the vision and really, like you said, make it plain, and we say make it plain for somebody else to follow, you got to make it plain so you can follow it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah, a quote I read and I shared it, and I think it's a great tool to use is motivation will get you there.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes that vision and the determination to get you through it. The dedication. You got to be dedicated, you got to be determined, and you got to have that vision to get through it. Because I can motivate you all day long and get you to that thing. But these are the other tools that will go with that to get you
Mm-hmm.
through it.
I agree. And I think, to your point of making it clear for yourself, I think that's important because when it's clear to you and it's clear to others, then you can kind of be able to start to branch into, how can I strategically partner with other businesses, right? Like, how can I be able to start to do things that's going to allow me to grow as a corporation in a way, whereas though what it is that I'm communicating, people get it immediately. Like a
Mhm.
lot of times, you have to
Ah,
still, yeah, you have to have that aha moment of
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
I can't just, it can't just be in here. I have to translate it into a way where as though as soon as people get it, they understand what it is, and then you have the conversation. And a lot of times I hear people talk about, partnerships that they may want to have, clients that they may want to bring on, and they always people sometimes make it this emotional thing or this like, I really want to. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's just a conversation, just as you and I are having now. It's just a conversation. And when you have that back end of you've made things clear for yourself and for others, when you go into that conversation, you can do it in a way where you're more confident, right? And where you're able to convey what it is that you want, how it is you want to partner, how strategically you want to align with that business or that client, and be able to open up the opportunity for people to be able to understand and get on board to what
Mhm,
it is that you're presenting. And
mhm.
so, it's just one of those things where I feel like, every business needs a visionary and an executor,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that's just all I do. Like the vision for me, when I come in, the vision was already there.
Mhm.
All that I do is help you to be able to execute it in a way where as though whatever the goal is that you set out for, you can be able to achieve that goal, but then you can be able to go on and duplicate that or replicate that.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you bring that skill and that talent to small businesses. I love that because you have a lot of, like you said, people out here with great visions, but they just don't know how to execute it because you got the big giants that are out there and they have money,
Mm-hmm.
forces that they can say, hey, look at me. Where the smaller business is like, yeah, look at me, which sometimes is also the better business when it comes to the product or the knowledge, if
I
that
am
makes sense.
I am so glad you said that because my personal opinion and the hill that I would go down on is small businesses have a unique set of challenges because a lot of times, like you said, they don't necessarily have all the resources to compete with the larger corporations. However, the product that it is that they have, the service that it is they're offering, or the community that they've built around that is oftentimes greater than what it is for those larger corporations. The only difference is the larger corporations have the dollars to
Mhm,
increase their visibility to
mhm,
appear as if. And what I've learned is, so I work within small businesses. However, I work within small businesses that partner with large corporations.
mhm,
And that has taught me a totally different perspective about understanding a unique set of challenges that small businesses actually go through. Because whereas though you partner with a company like a larger organization and they have all these systems and processes in place, and then you got to get in touch with this person in that department and this person in that department. At a small business, there's a few people that are doing
mhm.
multiple things and they're trying to figure it out as they go. And so that is something that I do, one, I'm passionate about, and two, that I do uniquely try to make sure that I'm addressing how to work with a small business and a large corporation, because there's a unique set of challenges that I feel like both sides don't necessarily agree. And when you start thinking about partnerships, larger corporations oftentimes want to partner with the smaller corporations because they have the access to the people, because they have a unique set of products or a unique offering that for them they don't have, but they want the access to. And I
Mhm.
feel like in order for them to be able to have that access to, we also have to make sure that our small businesses are in a position to be able to, come to the table strategically and in a way where as though they're not being taken advantage of, one, and then two, in a way that they're not being looked over or overlooked for those opportunities. So that's something that I get passionate about
Yes,
every time I hear
look, like you've been fired up, but that right there, like you like, okay, yes, I'm ready for this.
it.
So
Yeah,
thank you for
yeah,
that great insight that you shared with us. Because we have a lot of us out here that are really, really fighting uphill in this world, trying to get out these messages that will put our children in a better position,
hmm,
because now we know better. Our parents didn't know a lot of things that you and I know, and us, our audience, that now we're knowing, and as like this, airing things out now, this airing it out, being able to get this message not to just the local community. I want airing it out to go, worldwide and share this message. So having guests as yourself to share this knowledge is a big thing. So we are very, very, very grateful and humbled that you were able to sit and
yeah.
share such vast knowledge with us. I mean, you have really colored the picture for us tonight. And I thank you so much for doing that. But as we come to an end, Tiffany,
Yeah.
I always ask each and every guest that comes here to spend time with us and air it out, to air something out to our guests that they can pick up maybe day to day, or those moments where they don't see that model,
Mm.
or they don't know how to change their environment, or it is a small business that's been sitting on the shelf that's in their head and maybe they want to get it out. Can you like give us something to keep with us?
Yeah, I can. And I'll say thank you for that. Thank you for having me. One, I love what you're doing. I love that the mission that you have, and I love your energy just in general. Like I feel like we always just keep it real.
Yes, we do.
It's always a good conversation. And the thing that I'll add is just do the work, and it's not it doesn't have appeal to it, but just do the work. That's something that really has allowed me to challenge myself. Don't romanticize it. Don't make it this whole big drawn out thing. If you have something, a vision that you have in your mind, something that you feel called to do, just do the thing, right? Figure out what that looks like. Ask the questions, challenge yourself to think differently. One of my favorite quotes is, an educated mind can entertain a thought without accepting it. And that has taken me a very long way, because that's taught me to be able to think about things critically, to be able to analyze things, to be able to, just take in and be a sponge. But then also, I don't have to keep it all, right? You don't have to keep it all, because everything is not going to pertain to you. So just do the work, right? Just do the work, and then also know that you can do the work. You have everything that you need. You are already equipped. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been given to you. So that's what I leave. I try to keep it simple, just because I feel like, simple is better, right?
Yes, yes,
Simple
yes,
is
yes,
better.
yes. Simple is better.
Yeah.
So, with all that Tiffany has brought with us, you guys, I really, really am myself overjoyed, and I have the knowledge that I needed tonight. You gave me a lot, and I thank you. And I know that the guests got a lot. You guys make sure to stay to the end, as we will be attaching Tiffany's credentials just in case you want to have another conversation with her, as I know she would be glad for you to. I'm going to share with you guys before I leave, as Tiffany said, let's keep it simple. Airing it out. Whenever you go to sit and think that you're going to have a doubt, or that mindset that tells you that you cannot do it or it's impossible to do it, take the time, air it out. Sometimes you may can air it out within yourself or with your creator, and then that's enough. But know that your mental is so important. So if you need to air that thing out with someone else, please make sure you reach out for that help. It's important. and it's okay to air it out. You know, we take it to work hard and stay humble here at Airin Get Out. We thank each and every one of you for coming. Remember always that God loves you. I love you. Tiffany loves you. And we're so glad that you were able to sit down and enjoy us Airin Get Out, one episode at a time. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Tiffany, again for coming with
Thank
us.
you. Thank you.